This is just half an hour for questions on Q2. Some people are going to come up. Is there anything you'd like to say? Some opening remarks, just to break the ice.
Very happy to do that, councillors. Good afternoon. Pleased to present to you an opportunity to do a Q&A on the Q2 report. This is the second iteration of the quarterly report against the 2024 LTP, and it reflects a journey of development which we're on. Again, it's a quarterly report. I think, as you're aware, every time we update our LTPs, we go back and have a look at our reporting, how it sits around that, how best to reflect that. And this one's incorporating the developments which you saw in the Q1 report, as well as a few further updates that we've done in this report as well. We'll continue to evolve that look and feel and the content of the report as we go through, and as we go through the year itself. So it does tend to be a living beast, if you like, and that's intentionally so. We're also always keen to get feedback on that and how we can actually do that. Also, just noting that always every individual councillors will have their own individual needs and perspectives, and we're trying to tread a line down those to deal with most of the perspectives in a way which satisfies everybody, but also recognising that there'll be individual perspectives in there which perhaps we don't actually cover off, and we're happy to meet with councillors and talk about that as well. I know in that whole process that Joss and Baz did meet with councillors to get some feedback on the content of the report itself, and that has shaped the report as you see it today. Just with that, I'll hand over to Joss just to talk about a quick overview of the non-financials, and then to Rainer can give us a quick overview of the financials, and then we can go to Q&A.
Kia ora koutou. In terms of our non-financial performance, this quarter was the same as last quarter, with 73% of the LTP KPIs met. And Wellington Water also had a similar result. Their result was 77, again the same as quarter one. We had, in terms of Wellington Water, they have continued to show improvement against targets. So where those KPIs haven't met their target, they've had an improvement, and that improvement ranged between 3% and 68%. There's still a challenge in terms of response times, so they're having a bit of a problem getting to the job, but once they're there, the resolution time is meeting target. In terms of our results for the CCOs, we had in the reader, we had 5 out of 7 that didn't meet their target this time. That was due to data lag and also phasing. We are looking in Q3 to see how we can improve that phasing. The data lag is likely to continue because it's actually to do with the sources that reader obtain their data from for the major events. So there's a lot involved in that, and there is a lag in there. We'll do the best that we can to improve it, but we don't believe that we're going to actually succeed in overcoming that lag. Having said that, the end of year results do take into account everything. So in terms of our waste KPIs, there were 2 that did not meet target this time. One related to waste diversion and is actually connected to the consent conditions relating to the sludge disposal. And the other one was the contamination rates. We've seen an improvement in the contamination rates, both against baseline and last quarter results. So while it didn't meet its target, it actually had improvement. We also had in terms of the zoo and cable car, there were visitation rates, visitation KPIs that were not met. The cable car ones are expected to be met next quarter, but the zoo is likely not to meet next quarter. So those are those. And in terms of, as Lloyd was talking about, improvement, this time we have included the Taituara service dimensions. We used these as a mark of good practice, and all of our LTP KPIs have been aligned to a service dimension, and also the underlying KPIs that sit below the CCO SOIs have also been aligned. And this time we have shown you the performance against those. And for the LTP KPIs overall, we had 100% met for our client satisfaction, safety was 89% met, and reliability and accessibility with both 67. So this gives us an opportunity to see how our performance is progressing against those service dimensions in terms of LTP service delivery. In terms of the CCO underlying KPIs, their top three were safety, reliability, dropping down and sustainability. I think that's pretty much me for the non-financial, so I can hand over to Raina.
Good afternoon, councillors. Just at a really, really high level, the council surplus for the year to date to December is 23 million, which is 13 million higher than budgeted. This is due to both lower revenue and lower expenditure. Now, the lower revenue is due to less NZTA grant funding, as well as sludge revenue being down. In the expenditure space, there's been less expenditure on our transport space, and also just a timing with some of our contracts. Now, our capital spend year to date is 230 million. Now, this is 106 million behind budget, noting that there were decisions made in November as well about reducing the current year's budget, along with the LTP decisions. And at the same time, we also continue to forecast throughout the year where we're likely to land. And as part of finalising the 25-26 annual plan, we will look to rephase those underspends where necessary and rephase them over the future years where that spend will likely occur. Just another high-level figure, we've got net debt as at 31 December of 1.55 billion, and that is up 131 million year to date, noting that we don't budget the balance sheet on a monthly basis. Take questions.
Thank you all. I have a question from Deputy Mayor Flynn.
Thank you. Lots of good reading in there. My questions just are primarily, first ones are around the sludge delivery. So just wanting to understand that while we're in amber, the timing is still on track, and that corresponding with the SLEPO delivery at the landfill, that's still on track as well. And then just regarding the P80, like moving into that budget realm, what does that mean in terms of, are we still tracking to stay within budget?
We'll pass it over to Chris.
Yeah.
I'll just start with the landfill to begin with. So the landfill is on track to be delivered on time, so June 2026 is the latest update that we have. It's not going to exceed budget over this triennium. However, in developing the actual physical works, what we've noticed is that we need to build it a slightly different way, which means that the final cell will be complete in 2029. It's quite a complicated build, to be honest. So, but in terms of being able and ready to receive refuse from June 2026, is exactly on track. SMF. So we have a board meeting coming up in a couple of weeks' time, which are going to give us an update on the forecasted delivery date and the cost. So what I prefer to do is to seek advice, seek the latest advice from that meeting, and then provide this back if that's okay.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question. I'd seen some emails from councillors about some delay to major capital projects, and I think it was about Golden Mile and Hub 2. And I guess I just want to check on the reasons for those, and I'm wondering how much the LTP amendment process in particular has been a factor with some delays with those projects.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and cycle.
Absolutely, and for the detail of the key projects, I'm sure there'll be someone in the room that will be able to answer them. Look, when we had the decision of the notice of motion, what we did do was ensure that we carefully considered all of our capital expenditure program, because there was a clear intent set by this council to look at doing an LTP amendment and to look at alternative ways to consider our financial strategy. So that meant we had to pause quite a considerable probably not amount of capital, but actually the planning that goes in behind it to ensure that what we were doing would be prudent. Subsequent to the decisions that were made in November and December by the council, we set up a bit of a framework for how we could proceed with a number of our capital programs, and that included pausing anything that was proposed for change in the LTP amendment, continuing to proceed but with caution all other projects. And in particular, we highlighted 3 projects that we just wanted additional information on risk management. And those projects are more sort of long-term projects, so looking at them across a phased period of time. So we set very careful parameters around that. And that has delayed the ability to actually achieve a number of our parameters in our capital program as a result, and that's reflected in the report. I'll note that things like the sludge minimisation plant, it's continuing to progress on a slightly different path across the course of the year, because as we're designing and building as we go, the phasing of the work comes in at different timeframes, but we're starting, now we're in kind of steel erection mode. We're really kind of starting to hit the ground running and expecting that to kind of push ahead and meet budgets. But HUP 2, I will let someone else respond to that in Golden Mile.
Through you, Chair, I'll ask Ethan to come and talk to HUP 2. Oh, Peter. Even better.
Good. Yeah, so with HUP 2 in particular, when we forecast, provided forecasts for the overall LTP, that had been prepared in advance of actually going through and completing a lot of the feasibility work that has been carried out since that time, and in particular the phasing of the program overall, i.e. how do we deliver the full series of upgrades in a portfolio that's fully occupied. So as we've worked through that process, we've ended up with a rephased, cash flow, which is still sticking within our timeframes that we have been working to, i.e. kind of the 10-year window to complete upgrades. It's just the money's ordered in a different way. So as we bring our program business case to council later this year, that will detail how that money is moved. So it's not necessarily we're behind schedule, it's just the money's been rephased. So and I guess just to give you context, we're dealing with 50 projects. We've assessed at project level a wide range of options. So in pulling the whole thing together, it's actually, moved things around quite a lot. And similarly, working with Toi Mahana, we needed to come up with a program that was manageable for the tenants that actually, live within these properties as well. So that's been an influencing factor on how the money's been phased.
Right, and Brad's going to come and talk a little bit at the Golden Mile. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, councillors. So yes, there was a delay to the Golden Mile due to the LTP amendment because the project future was uncertain. We had to halt negotiations, and we couldn't undertake negotiations with the contractor. So that meant that our signing of the contract was delayed. At the same time, we also had to look at the phasing of the project itself because of the Wakefield Street works with Wellington Water, and we've had to rephase the project in order to not gridlock the city when undertaking the construction. So those two things delayed it.
Thanks, Brad, and exciting to see the announcement today. And do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just 2 more quick points. On the HUP 2, we've also taken the opportunity in the last month or so just to reset the governance and the relationships with MHUD around the delivery of the HUP2 program, just to be really clear on who's playing a role and what we're doing so we don't have any of those issues later on so we can go smoothly into delivery. And on the sludge, we heard your call last month for a site visit. So we're currently trying to arrange that and set that for you in March. Okay.
Beautiful. Councillor Chung.
Great, thanks very much for this information. You mentioned that the our revenue is down, or partially down, because of the NZTA subsidies were reduced. Have we continued on with those projects despite the fact that these subsidies were not forthcoming? And did we actually pay 100% of the cost of these projects? And can you actually tell me what the additional cost was, please?
I'll pass it on to Brad.
Councillor, for this year, the budgets were set as per the previous LTP before we went through the amendment, and post LTP amendment, we've been looking at new budgets for year 2 and beyond. So year 1, yes, you're correct. In year 1, the budgets have remained the way they are, which means that in year 1, there is a bit of a wash up in terms of us having anticipated NZTA revenue that isn't there. Yeah. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head. Yeah, we'll have a look at it.
I'll just add to that, as part of the November meeting we decided made around the capital program, we did include there the amount of about $130 million worth of NZTA revenue that we weren't receiving for this triennium. And this was mitigated over the 10 years by reducing projects in the transport space so that there was no impact on our debt to revenue.
Councillor Free.
Thank you. I just want to get back to the landfill because it was really interesting. So I think this is for Chris. So the landfill is going to be ready to start filling with some material by June 2026. How does that tie in with the waste projects that we were planning to do? Because we don't want to fill it up too fast. Is everything on track?
Yes.
To kind of
from
merge together.
Yep, from a landfill point of view, everything's on track. We're actually going to start filling around March, April 2026. So you need to fill a little bit earlier because you need to put in what they call soft rubbish. And soft rubbish essentially goes around the gas extraction network. So you put that in and then you start receiving what we call the general rubbish from halfway through June 26. So that's all. I was just out there before. It's a thing of beauty. Everything's coming along on track. We've got our sediment pond and our polishing pond, which is really just a big pond with a whole bunch of plants in there, which take away all the sediment. So no, everything's definitely on track for that.
So just back to the waste minimisation targets that we've got.
Yep.
Has there been any implication this current government has said things, and I'm not quite sure what follow-through there's been, but are we on track to work with our partners on this project to gather organics and...
Yep, so there's a couple of things there. So firstly, yes, the government made some changes to the waste levy about a year ago, and what they did, so how it works is when basically the government give back TAs 50% of the landfill revenue based on your population. And what they've decided to do with their 50% is to widen the scope of it, I suppose, and not just on waste. You can also spend it on other so like water services or receive environments. So that's happened, and now they're also doing a current review of the waste levy on how it's used across the country. And we were selected as one of the councillors to provide some input into that. We provided it, and we are in the process through the WMP, the regional group, providing some feedback on the potential review.
Okay, so it sounds like there are no red flags at the moment.
No red flags at the moment. And obviously with the regional organics, we are still working through that, and we've also been asked by this council to come back with what would a local solution look like on the southern landfill. We can repurpose an old building, and we're on track to bring that back in May to help with your discussions.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Foon.
Chris, sorry, it's another one for you. Yeah. Nice work on trying to get your emails done. It was regarding the increase of sludge. Like, we've increased our sludge by over a third since 2022. It's quite interesting. Is there a reason?
It's not due to what you think it is. Basically, we have a dewatering plant there, which is an old dog, to be honest, and what's been increased is actually the water content in the sludge. And that's why we're seeing it increase more so than people using the bathroom more. And as this plant continues to age, the problem is going to continues on. But the problem is going to be all resolved when the big sludge plant comes on, because the dewatering plant gets turned off because we're not using that mucky technology anymore. Neither are we have a requirement to bury that stinky sludge. Does that help?
Yeah, I must say I was intrigued, so thank you for helping me with that. One more regarding Te Atakura. So just in the document it says that more policy and investment is needed. So the question I have is what areas need policy and investment that will have the most impact on emissions reduction?
Thank you. I think my comment there is around central government policy and funding. And in particular, you've seen the impact on our transport transformation program of work from the funding decisions of central government in the last, which is part of the LTP amendment. So that's really what I was discussing.
Okay, I missed the magic words of central government. Thank you.
Sorry, apologies if it wasn't clear.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Abdurrahman.
Kia ora, Jeannie. Please let me know if this is not part of this workshop, but you mentioned about the Hub 2 and how now the role is identified and each party knows what role to play. And I wonder, when it's come to leading the facility maintenance, the procurement, how that used to be and now compared to where you're going ahead from now on.
That's a good question. Peter, do you want to cover that in terms of facilities maintenance? The reset council I've done on the governance across the Hub 2 delivery is really focused on the Hub 2 delivery program for that capital investment. Facilities maintenance is slightly different. Has Yeston disappeared? There he is.
Sorry, Councillor, can you repeat the question, please?
I mean, if Tita Moana and the council is playing different roles currently, and does the road allocation or whatever you're doing include when it comes to facility maintenance now? Who is leading that one basically now and in going forward as well? Also, if you can touch base on the procurement.
Yeah, so the FM and Hub 2 will be delivered as a partnership. Obviously, Council will be leading it. With regards to the FM, the Hub 2 project, that will obviously influence what FM is required in later years. Does that answer your question?
I think, Councillor, if you've got more detailed questions, it might be helpful to ask them tomorrow when Te Toi Mahana are here, and we'll have both parties in the room, so as part of the quarterly report.
Yep, that's why I say, Jeannie, if it's not part of this workshop.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thank you. Councillor Free again.
Sorry, mine are all on the waste and the water. So just in terms of the sludge minimisation project, we had a problem with some of the procurement. Is that resolved now? It was steel, I think, because of the design slightly changing. Is everything under control with procurement? I'd just like to know.
So yes, I mean there were some challenges with the cost of the steel, and as I mentioned, there's a governance group meeting that's happening in 2 weeks' time, and that's going to give us an update on that. So what I prefer to do is actually get the latest information and feed it back to you, because I mean it's all on track to deliver under budget, as that's the current forecast.
Okay.
So that's what we know at the moment, and we can give a more fulsome update after the governance meeting.
That would be really nice. If it's under budget, that would be awesome. The other thing I want to ask about is that it was in the favourable financials, one of the reasons was due to lower Wellington Water spend. And I'm just interested to know, how did that come about? Because that wouldn't be the sludge minimisation I'm picking. So were they not able to spend all our budget?
So are we talking CapEx or OpEx here?
Sorry, I just looked at it as thank you.
Is it APEX? Sorry, which one? CapEx? Because I think CapEx is it.
It was in CapEx, I believe, in the quarterly report. I think it's a timing.
It is. I mean, I think they're around $4 million under at the moment, which happens every year. Once you get to the back 6 months, you will see it ramp up. And for the last 2 or 3 years, they've definitely delivered pretty much bang on the CapEx budget. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Are there any? Yes, Councillor Randall. Probably a quick one.
This is a quick one. On page 110 is the Waikuku Future Accommodation Project. I'm just a bit confused because it's got like a budget of 44.7 million, but it's forecast to be 51.4 million. And then there's an actuals, which is like 41 million. And so just wanted to get an update to say, is it true that is there a forecast budget overrun, or I'm just confused as to why those numbers are significantly over what the budget amount is.
I think Peter's coming up to
Thanks,
answer.
Peter. I understand we've got a briefing planned as well on this. Yeah, great. For more detail.
I can probably give an attempt to answer that one. I think at the moment the forecast is high, but we're going through a value engineering effort to reduce that back down. So the project team is just being quite transparent and saying, as it stands today, they're forecasting, the forecast looks like it's higher than the budget, but we will go through value engineering at a project board level to make sure that we get back down below that budget.
Okay, and so because I still find the report's really good for a start, and it's hard to get all the information in a summary view. I appreciate the risk element, the colour coding, but there isn't information as to what the cause of the risk is, whether it's a financial amber or is a schedule amber or both. And so I just find it confusing as the amber for finances.
I can probably take that. I think we are looking at different ways to reflect the key projects, because this only relates to the key projects. So, we don't update our financials, and James is exactly right. That is the status of Waikuku. Within our finances, we'll only ever incorporate the budget that you've approved, but within our project management system, we have a greater deal of granularity. So for each of those projects, we'll note what the approved budget is, and we'll note where we're forecasting, so we need, and where we're at in the project, and where we need to bring that down and value engineer as we're doing for Waikuku. So we will reflect that there's a level of risk to that, because we're still working through that, and that risk will relate to the financials. But there will often be other aspects of risk, because simply where it's at in this stage of the project in terms of scoping and where things are at. We'll look to continue to make improvements in that space, and Jeffrey's certainly supporting the organisation to do that.
Okay, no, I appreciate it. I think there's a good lot of detail there, so thank you.
Thank you all. That brings us to the end of that session. We probably have to turn off a live stream and turn on another one, so we'll do that quickly and move on to the next session.